Which AI model is best at predicting UFC fights? In this video, I've put GROK against ChatGPT, asked them both to predict the upcoming UFC 320 fights, main card and prelim, and then once the event is concluded, we're going to see which one was most accurate and reliable at predicting, in my opinion, the hardest sport in the world to predict, MMA. So, the first fight on the prelims, which is Daniel Santos versus Ju Song Yu. Now, on screen here, we've got GROK's prediction, which is Santos by KO, in brackets punches. So I've asked them both to give a brief rationale for each pick, so we can have a little sort of insight as to why they've picked that. So Santos's power edge and aggressive pressure overwhelmed the debuting Yu early, landing a highlight reel knockout in the first round. That's a pretty bold pick. That is pretty bold. So let's move on to ChatGPT's prediction for that fight. So it's saying Yu by KO TKO. So they're going head to head against each other already. The rationale for that: Yu brings explosive striking and momentum from a huge debut knockout. Santos is tough, but Yu's speed and power make him the more dangerous pick. Fair enough. Okay, so that one's already pretty interesting. Now on to the next one, which is Chris Gutierrez versus Farid Basharat. And GROK's prediction here is Basharat by unanimous decision. The reason it's saying that is Basharat's undefeated record and elite wrestling will grind down Gutierrez's leg kicks and counters, controlling the fight on the mat for a clear points win. Fair enough. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT has to say. ChatGPT says Gutierrez by decision. Rationale: Basharat is unbeaten but untested at this level. Gutierrez's leg kicks and experience should help him edge the scorecard. So they both mention the leg kicks from Gutierrez, but one's saying it's not going to be a problem. The other one's saying it's going to be the decider. So very interesting there. So we'll see what happens with that one. Next up, we've got Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Muniz. And on screen here, we've got GROK's prediction, which is a Shabazian unanimous decision. The reason for that is Shabazian's improved striking volume and takedown defense should allow him to outpoint Muniz over 3 rounds, avoiding the Brazilian's dangerous submissions after a string of recent finishes. Yeah, that's a reasonable prediction to make. ChatGPT, however, says Muniz by submission. Rationale: Shabazian struggles when dragged into deep waters. Muniz's BJJ is elite and he only needs one scramble to finish. So yeah, kind of makes sense. I mean, they're going totally against each other so far, so it's going to make for a very interesting results video. But anyway, on to the next one. And on to the featured prelim fight, which is Ateba Gautier versus Ozzy Diaz. Now we can see GROK's prediction for that one is a Gautier TKO by punches. Gautier's crisp boxing and forward pressure break down Diaz's defense early, securing a second round stoppage against the streaking prospect. Okay. ChatGPT says Gautier by submission, so kind of agreeing there, but not quite by method of victory. The rationale for that being Gautier's grappling looks like the key advantage. If he secures top control, Diaz will be in danger quickly. Fair enough. I mean, I've seen this Gautier fight, and he's a bit of a monster. And I haven't heard of this Ozzy Diaz, but I've heard from some MMA YouTubers that this is a guy that's basically being fed to Gautier. He's just like a can that they're just putting in front of him to show how good this guy is. So yeah, it looks like they agree in there with the Gautier win, but not quite on the method of victory. Now, on to what is a pretty stacked main card, starting off with Joe Pyfer versus Abus Magomedov. GROK's prediction here is Pyfer by TKO. Pyfer's explosive power overwhelms Magomedov's tricky style early, dropping him for the ref's stoppage before cardio becomes an issue. Okay. Yeah, I can see that happening, actually. And then we've got ChatGPT's prediction, which is Pyfer by decision. Rationale: Magomedov is explosive early, but tends to fade. Absolutely true. Pyfer's durability and work rate should see him take over in the later stages. Now, the first part I agree with there. Magomed does fade, but Pyfer's work rate is one of his biggest problems. Like, he just loads up for a big KO the whole time. I mean, the last 3 fights have kind of passed him by, especially that one against Jack Hermansson. He was just looking for a straight right or an overhand right the whole time, and it was very easy to figure out. But he has got good durability, and he has got the better gas tank, so I agree. I agree here with the Pyfer win, but I think GROK's more on the money there with a TKO shout. So there's that one. So on to the next one, which is a very intriguing matchup indeed. This one is Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Zalal. Now, GROK says Emmett is going to win this one by KO, and it's even specifying the type of punch, overhand right. To be fair, that is all that Emmett looks for. That is all he does. He sticks his head down and his arms come up over the top and he's trying to knock the guy out. So that makes a lot of sense. Quick rationale here. Emmett's one-punch knockout threat catches Zalal lunging forward, ending it abruptly despite the Moroccan's grappling upside. Okay. I would say Zalal has a striking upside as well, just not in terms of power. Anyway, here's ChatGPT's prediction on this one. Josh Emmett by decision. Rationale. Emmett's pressure and wrestling should be enough to neutralize Zalal's movement to win rounds on control and activity. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I personally would have gone for Zalal here by method of, point fighting and scoring and winning sort of like a unanimous decision on the outside. Emmett is very predictable, and for like a high level, like defensive striker like Zalal is, I thought that had kind of play into his hands a little bit. But I mean, Emmett, like it said, has got that one punch knockout power. He can always catch anyone at any time. So fair enough there, both agreeing on a Josh Emmett win there. Right, onto the proper spicy ones now. We've got Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. Proper big fight, this one. So GROK is saying here, Prochazka to win by TKO, knees and punches, okay? Prochazka's wild aggression and clinch work break down Roundtree's power punching, leading to a bloody stoppage in the third. I like that. I like that prediction a lot. I think that's very likely to happen as well. Absolutely. ChatGPT, however, says the same. Prochazka by KO/TKO. Rationale. Both men are dangerous finishers, but Jiri thrives in chaotic striking battles and has more ways to land a fight-ending shot. I think that is bang on. I think that's absolutely bang on. I think Roundtree is a really aggressive, dangerous striker, but not in that same way that Jiri is. Like it said, Jiri thrives in that chaotic scenario where anything could happen, and he's throwing whatever he can, downward elbows, upward elbows, spinning elbows. He's throwing in a jumping knee with a tie clinch behind the guy's head. So yeah, I think that's bang on, and I would pick Jiri Prochazka to win by KO. I think it happens in maybe the first or second exchange they have. I think it just I think maybe Jiri gets caught and it kind of turns him on, it not turns him on, it sort of wakes him up. Maybe it turns him on too. He's that kind of guy. But yeah, and then they get in an absolute scrap, and it's a legendary 2 minutes or whatever, and Jiri comes out on top. But anyway, on to the next one. So first of the two title fights, we are being treated here as UFC fans for once. So we've got Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen for the bantamweight title. GROK says Dvalishvili by unanimous decision. Merab's unmatched pace and wrestling smothers Sandhagen's creative striking, repeating his prior dominance for a clear title retention. Fair enough, pretty sensible, although let's see what ChatGPT is saying. ChatGPT says Dvalishvili by submission. Merab's relentless cardio and chain wrestling usually wear strikers down. Sandhagen's movement is slick, but defending constant takedowns is tough over 5 rounds. And that was what I was going to say. I think Merab subs him. I think Corey is kind of good at evading that kind of pressure for a while. But once you get him, and I think Merab is going to get him just by pure volume, by pure stats, we see what happens in that kind of scenario, right? He got finished by Aljamain Sterling very, very quickly. He didn't really have an answer for the sort of stifling wrestling. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. I think ChatGPT's got this one a bit better. Although it could, Corey could survive for quite long and lose a decision by control time, basically. But yeah, Dvalishvili to retain his title for sure. But I think Corey Sandhagen kind of gets squashed a little bit. But anyway, on to the next one. So the main event and the big rematch for the light heavyweight title between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Let's go with GROK first, and it is predicting an Ankalaev by unanimous decision win. Ankalaev repeats his grappling heavy blueprint from fight 1, neutralizing Pereira's knockout threat with control and volume for another points victory. Yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't have called the first fight a grappling heavy blueprint. I think that's a bit too much. He didn't grapple all that much. He kind of outstruck Pereira. I think he used his space and his footwork really well and kind of did threaten that the whole time. He was right in sort of shooting range, and I think he wanted Pereira to know that. So yeah, I agree pretty much all the way through there. Now, ChatGPT is saying Ankalaev by unanimous decision. Okay, same thing. Pereira's power is always a threat, but Ankalaev's wrestling and patience should let him control the pace and avoid a knockout. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think looking at the first fight, I don't think there's a lot more Pereira could have done. He wasn't doing anything really that wrong. He was just being sort of out strategized, and you know, his game plan, I don't think maybe was the best. But then because Magomed is a good wrestler and also a good crisp counter striker, that kind of like they're the two worst things against Pereira's style, which is to maraud forward slowly and search for that little spot to get that knockout shot. Whereas you can't really, because you throw a big hook, you don't know whether you're going to get a little slip and a crisp jab popped in your face, or a level change and a double leg on you, you know, and that's kind of Pereira's worst nightmare. We've seen him get away with it a lot, you know. Some of these Pereira fights, I look at his opponent and I think, why on earth aren't you diving at a double leg on this man? Is there people are just duking out of him on the feet? It doesn't make any sense to me anyway. But so that is that fight, and that is the whole card from prelims up to the main event predicted. So once the event is done, I will be releasing another video called the same thing but results video. So hopefully you'll subscribe and join me for that, because I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and then probably make a series of this going forward. So in any event, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate that. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.